Today I'm in Bilston in Staffordshire. It's a town just a couple of miles outside Wolverhampton, and this is Bilston Cemetery. In one corner of the graveyard is the War Memorial. This commemorates those that died in the First World War. It doesn't name the people on the memorial. In fact, the inscription is on the far side of the memorial because there is a gate in the cemetery. You can just see it behind, but that's now closed off. So the memorial faces out of the graveyard, but it's not easy to get around to the other side of it. There's a whole mixture of the old stones and some new ones, just sort of fitted in odd spaces. Fairly modern one here. We've got the angel, hand in the air, wings open, 1 foot, 2 feet showing on this one. This is Ephraim, the beloved husband of Elizabeth Smith, and on the front we have another young angel and some flowers on the grave showing that it's still cared for. Here we have Mary holding a cross, and the inscription further down is for Florence, or Flo, the wife of Arthur Richards of Widnes. Now that's a long way out of area. The beloved daughter of William and Florence Allmark, 1925. Beside the path we have Joseph Henry Cartwright, 1918, age 19. It's possible he was a casualty of the First World War. And their daughter, Margaret Daisy, age 27 in 1921. And then beneath that we have the parents. This is a tall stone, and if we compare behind the holly bush, we've got Samuel Haddock JP. Another of the larger stones. The inscription here is to Elizabeth, daughter of James and Elizabeth Thompson, and wife of John Williams. She died in 1920. As always, we find the war graves in these cemeteries. Private I. Bromley, South Staffordshire Regiment, 1917. It doesn't give his age. 2 gravestones here which commemorate war casualties, and they're in the same style, so I'm imagining there's a family connection. If we just look at the one on the left, Harold Vernon McVitie, son-in-law of the above Sarah Truman of the Australian Imperial Forces. Killed in France, 1918, age 28. And if we just go to the right, you see the stone is slightly smaller but the same design. Albert Lee of the Royal Field Artillery, killed in action, March 21st, 1918, age 26 years. Now there's the pair of stones alongside each other. Possibly the tallest statue in the graveyard. We have at the top a damsel, a lady with a finger pointing in the air. I don't see any wings, so I'm not going to call her an angel. We come down for the inscriptions. At the bottom of the front face we see the memorial is Hubert Marchant. Above that we have his wife, Elizabeth, wife of Herbert Marchant, 1888, and then Herbert himself, and then William James Marchant. There are other names on the other sides of this memorial. So this is the Marchant family of Bilston. I've walked a short way in, and the eye is immediately taken to the war graves, one in the foreground, three in the mid. I'll just pick one of those at random. Private G.A. Chin, South Staffordshire Regiment, 20th of June 1918. A few yards further in, there's more of them. I'm counting around 15 I can readily see from here. I would love to remember all these young men in the video, but I think it would make a very long video just looking at these war graves. Just one more at random. Private Joseph Lally, Royal Warwickshire Regiment, November 1918, and his family have paid to put the letters R.I.P. at the bottom. You can see the graveyard stretches into the far distance down there. There is just so much to have a look at here. It's difficult to know how to get started, and if you look round to the right here beyond these trees, it just stretches away. Amongst the more modern graves, this one stands out because of the elaborate design and the size of it. The inscription, though, is firstly for just a 9-month-old young lady, Louis Marina, the daughter of Harry and Maria Smith, 1941, aged 9 months. And then the Harry and Maria Smith carried on to a great age, 81 and 85. A very elaborate memorial, as the modern ones go. Another large angel on this one, with a very young face on it. And if we pan down to the memorial, the first name on it is Samuel, beloved husband of Clara Smith, 1952, aged 88. And then Clara went 10 years later, aged 92. You have to love this one. The angel's got her arms crossed and sort of leaning over the balcony, much as we would do, leaning over the parapet of a bridge or balcony of a house. The inscription behind is Eliza, the daughter of Gilderoy, unusual name, Gilderoy and Ellen Smith, 1939. And then we've got Gilderoy Smith below that, and I think Ellen Smith beneath it. At the far end of the graveyard we have the Garden of Remembrance. These are tablets and stones erected to those that died, but they're not buried here. They would almost certainly have been cremated, but it's nice to have the memorial to remember these people by. It's becoming increasingly popular with the modern stones in the last 10 or 15 years to have an image put on there of something that indicates your interest in life. So now we know all about Eileen and Frederick Gubbins and their little Scotty dog. This stone here for Nenny, wife of Fincher Smith and then Fincher. At the top left there it has a horse and cart. So were these travelling people? Then of course we have the cemetery cat who's come to see what I'm doing here. This stone has the police phone box at the top left, so I'm guessing that's something to do with the television series Doctor Who. She was presumably a fan of those programs. This one has the horse on the left, which is not uncommon. On the right hand side are 2 balls of wool and some knitting needles. You can draw your own conclusions about the interests of James Henry Filkins and Della Filkins. Well, I've moved further into the area where there's a lot more modern burials, and immediately you'll see that there's quite a liking for the statues. Mostly angels. It's interesting how it varies from graveyard to graveyard. This well cared for grave has the statue of Christ at the end. At the front here we've got 2 little angels and a lot of flowers, and the surname behind those flowers is Clee, C-L-E-E. And this is another one with the image of Christ as he is depicted. And again we've got 2 little cherubs with angels on the front, well cared for. The inscription is for Rancher Robert Lee, husband of Rita, 1987. This one has the sorrowing angel. Clearly very sad. And the name at the bottom there, Jack Stanley Sargent. This is probably the tallest of them. It has Christ on the cross and it stands on a prominent corner, and it's Billy and Pat Nelson, and inscribed on one side of the horizontal stone is a caravan, and on the other side a Rolls-Royce car. The depiction of Christ is not uncommon in this graveyard, but it's not something you see in many graveyards. Just give you a close-up of this one. Another one on this memorial, and the name at the bottom is Thomas Lee, 1973. Next to it we have Christ depicted as the Good Shepherd. He's carrying a lamb under his left arm, and his right hand is tending to a sheep that's looking up at the lamb. There's a whole area here where the Garden of Remembrance, the remembrance stones, are all horizontal. Now this one is very elaborate. It has the angel engraved on the stone on the left hand side, the doves on top, flowers everywhere. And I've just been told by a lady that knows this graveyard well, lives locally, that this is the Clee family, who are gypsy folk, travellers, and they're also responsible for many of the other very elaborate and tall statues in this graveyard. Just show you another view of this area with the tall statues, many of Christ, many of angels. Finally, I'm going to show you this one. On the front here we have Edwin Hill and his wife Eliza Hill, and on the side it lists their children. Thomas Henry died aged 3 years, William died 8 years, Louisa died 10 years and 6 months, Eliza died 6 years, and Annie Elizabeth died aged 3 years. Now it's interesting that the top 4 all died in the same year, in fact February and March, and without checking it I'm suspecting that was a cholera outbreak. It did rage through families and kill many of the young children around that time. Very sad. There's a lot to see in this graveyard. You could spend a lot of time in here. I'm going to call it a day at this point, and certainly recommend it. Certainly worth coming to see, both the old graves and the new graves. Bilston in Staffordshire, just outside Wolverhampton. Till the next time.